First thing you see when you walk into the garden is my compost pile and all those broken sunflower plants that were volunteers that came up here that got waylaid by the tornado that came through here. Some of them, even though they're broke down, they're still flowering, which is nice. And there's another one over there that, yeah, they are pretty amazing plants. And there's one over there that didn't really get bothered because I guess the trees blocked the wind. But you can see, like in my neighbor's yard, that big cedar tree there is laying on our fence. Her insurance company said they're going to replace this fence too, so we got fences going. And she had some tree people come in, but the tree people are all working for the city now to get, you know, the infrastructure stuff fixed. So not much of this stuff that's not an emergency is getting repaired yet. Anyway, let's take a look at the garden. That's what we came out here for. These are cantaloupe plants that, you know, went through the hailstorm. You can see if you look at them, their leaves are pretty beat up on them. But they survived, and hopefully they'll do well enough to get some cantaloupes on them. The carrots didn't blink an eye. They're in the ground, so they don't get hurt by hail damage. Been picking some pretty good sized carrots. There's another big pot of parsley, and this is sweet potatoes I planted yesterday. This is where my squash plant was. I had a zucchini in here, and the squash vine borers killed it. And so I put some compost and fertilizer in there yesterday and planted some of my sweet potato sprouts. They don't look great right now, but they were in the hailstorm too, so you know they'll come back. They'll do fine. And this is probably the best looking cantaloupe I have here. There's two plants in here, and these got fertilized and stuff yesterday, so they're doing okay. Like I say, you can see where the hail hit them, and but hopefully we'll have some cantaloupe soon. When these come up on this cage, I use old torn up t-shirts and make little saddles for the cantaloupes so that they don't break the plants. Peppers here, these are serrano peppers, and there's peppers on them. You can see the peppers right there. This plant is producing better than any of these two plants actually are producing better than any of my other ones are. The serrano peppers make good salsa, so I've got some of those. I'm probably going to make some green tomato salsa with those and all the green tomatoes that have been falling off my plants. This is a jalapeno plant here, and I don't see any fruit on it yet. I had trouble with one of these last year too that didn't put any fruit on it until like the fall, so not sure what's going on with it. Not even a lot of flowers on it. There's a few. And this is the Casper eggplant that I showed you previously, that I picked a few eggplant off, and I had to put a stick in there to hold it up because the wind blew it over during that storm. And there's another one of these over here in the garden bed that's doing pretty good too, that's got eggplant on it. You can see. And so we're gonna get some eggplants. The other peppers in here in the garden, you know, I don't know. I kind of have this problem every year with peppers, it seems like. I get beautiful pepper plants. I had to stake these up a little bit because they got blown over too. But not seeing a whole lot of peppers, or like on those are ancho pepper plants over there. And I haven't seen any peppers on them yet. So maybe they just don't like it here. These are those Mexican, let me pull this back a little bit. These are those Mexican Paseo Bajío peppers, and no peppers on those either. This is raised bed number 3. I've done a lot of trimming on these plants because they were getting gangly and sprawling all over the place. But these have a fair amount of tomatoes on them, and they're good sized, good looking tomatoes. And they're underneath the shade cloth. So the shade cloth is kind of loose a little bit, so I could see where it resisted the hail. It was blowing around a little bit, but some of the stuff in here, like that tomato right there on the top, that got hit by a hailstone. And so they've definitely suffered a little bit. These are the 3 BHN 589s. That's the same variety that's in the sago garden, and these are doing better than those did. Like that one in the middle there, that's got a whole bunch of tomatoes on it. Like, I can count 15 right now. More than that, there's more than 15 tomatoes on it. So let's move on. This is raised bed number 3. This is raised bed number 2, where I've got, on the back row there, I put 5 tomato plants, which that's too many. They're too crowded. This one, the raised bed number 3 only had 3 tomato plants on it, and they filled in really well. But this is just too many. And you can tell that the production is down on the plants because of their being too crowded. So, but there are tomatoes on them. There's tomatoes down there and in there. And these were, like that plant that I'm showing you right there was completely blown over by the tornado, laying on the ground. So it's, you know, it was propped back up with the tomato cages and trying to get back to where it was. In the front here, this is a bell pepper plant. And this is why my one pepper in the raised bed. There's one, or beds, there's one pepper there. And this is, these are banana peppers that, we got another storm last night. They're getting blown over. So I should prop these up or tie them up with some string or something. But I've had a lot to do and I just haven't gotten to some of this stuff. Yesterday I came out here and I fertilized all these raised beds, the first 3 here, and put compost in. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, these pepper plants here, this is a Big Jim, which is the Anaheim pepper. No peppers on those yet either. This is the Celebrity tomatoes. There's a pretty nice cluster down there, and like I said, these aren't as impressive as I would like them to be. I had to deadhead them, as you can see here, a lot of them, because they're getting too gangly. So I cut a lot of branches off of these yesterday. This one here, there's not much on it really. But anyway, maybe as it heats up a little bit, we're getting some hot weather now, they'll start sizing up a little bit. So yeah, this is a mistake I made here. I put too many tomatoes in this bed, and then that's what happens. You just don't get the production. So I'll know better next time. 3 tomatoes is plenty on the side of an 8-foot bed if you're not trimming them, like I'm not there. So, and then in raised bed number 1 here is where my onions and shallots and leeks were, and I picked the last of the leeks yesterday, and then I went in and I used my garden fork to basically open up the soil. I didn't turn it, but I just stuck it down in there and pried a little bit to open up the soil like you do with a broad fork. And then I fertilized with the organic 323 fertilizer, and I put an inch layer of mushroom compost on top of that, and then I went ahead and I planted 10 sweet potato sprouts that I propagated myself off of sweet potato that I actually bought at the grocery store. I know that might sound cheap, but it is cheap, and that's why I do it that way. And then there's our one surviving golden nugget tomato plant here. This was definitely damaged by the storm. You can see the bent over stalks, and like right here, that's damaged, and you can see those tomatoes are they're not getting very big, but I'll take what I can get out of it. They're nice tomatoes. They're good, they're tasty. I wouldn't say they taste as good as Sun Golds, but they're more compact plants, and like sungo plants, they get so huge, they sprawl all over the place. Along the fence with my neighbor here, I have the tubs. And yeah, I grow food in bathtubs. I throw them out, they make great pots. Actually this one here came out of a bathroom that I remodeled last year. It's just a steel one, I can move that around myself, but that one down there is cast iron. It took 4 people, I think, to put that there. So anyway, these are the cucumber plants, the pickle cucumbers. This is variety of Sumter that I've been getting the pickles off that you saw earlier in the video. So yeah, this one here, I'm letting size up a little bit. But yeah, they're putting pickles on them, and I've seen a lot of bees out here, that's a great sign. And yeah, they got beat up by the hail, but they're surviving. And these are called National Pickling Cucumbers. They have lots of flowers on them, and I've picked some nice cucumbers off of this plant too. So I think I picked a couple off of it this morning. So they're going, and these trees on the other side of this fence are all going to get taken out because they're all dead. These are 2 VHN 589 plants. Now, when I did my seedlings this year, I planted the best seedlings in the best places, and then these were 2 that I had left over, and I put them in here, and maybe that was a mistake because I'm not seeing them set fruit, and there's lots of flowers on them and stuff like that, or there have been lots of flowers on them, but I'm not seeing any tomatoes on these. But I don't need that pot for anything else, so I'm just gonna let them go and see what happens. I was hoping, to get some more tomatoes out of them, but so far not happening. And they're not underneath the shade cloth, so they didn't get sheltered from the hail. So they got pounded up pretty bad by the hailstorm, tornado, whatever. And then this pot here had 3 plants in it. It had 3 different pepper plants, and it was 3 different varieties, and 2 of them got pounded up so bad that they're dead. So I pulled them out of there. There's 1 pepper plant in there. I think that might be a jalapeno, not for sure what it is. You can see that it got, the leftover leaves, it got pounded by hail. There. So maybe you'll get something out of that. And this, so sad over here. I did something really silly here. I had tied up my cucumber plants here. There were 6 cucumber plants in here of the slicing variety. It was a variety called Ashley that was new to me this year. And what I did is I tied them up to the rope on this shade cloth. Well, I had those clips right there around the branches, and when the tornado came through, I guess it raised up the shade cloth. I wasn't outside looking at it, believe me, it was scary. And it ripped them all right out by the roots, except for this one, for some reason didn't get torn out. And you can see how badly. I mean, look at this plant. Anyway, I'm leaving it there in hopes that, maybe it'll recover and make some cucumbers. We'll see what happens. It's flowering, and there's some new branches growing on it, so that's yet to be seen. And so I put a couple of sweet potato sprouts in the tub here too, because I had some and I needed to plant something here to cover that dirt this summer. So that's where the majority of my tomato plants are. This is what I call the cedar log garden, because obviously it's built out of cedar logs. And this is the bed that's been here the longest of all these, and been treated with compost and other organic material buried in it over the years. So it's probably got the best soil of all the beds that I have, and you know, it's got the shade cloth over it, but there was still some hail damage on the exterior parts of the plant or tomatoes where it wasn't covering. So I'm just going to go through the varieties here. On the end here, there's 3 mortgage lifter plants, and I'm very impressed with these plants. Holy cow. Look at the size and clusters of tomatoes on these things. Beautiful tomatoes. Some of these got knocked down on the ground. Yeah, these are just beautiful. Big old fat beefsteak style tomatoes. And you know, there is a little gap here where hail came in and damaged these plants a little bit, but they're still kicking, and they're building some nice ingredients for bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwiches. These are the patty stripe beefsteak. There's some nice tomatoes on them, but they're not as prolific as the other varieties in here. So that one's, the jury's still out on whether I'm going to continue to grow these. They're pretty when they ripen up, but maybe not as productive as a lot of the other varieties. And then the next, these are black Krim here, and they're very productive. You can see right there where that one got hit by a hailstone. And see if I can open up this a little bit. You know, there's some nice tomatoes on them. There's one really nice beefsteak style right there. And this one here got damaged, I guess. But anyway, they're not as productive as the mortgage lifters so far. So we'll see how they do as time goes by. And then here I have my Big Beef, which is, Big Beef has always been a good producing variety for me. It's one of the, you know, popular ones that you can find at most of the garden centers. And for good reason, I see. You know, every year, of all my plants, the Big Beef seems to be the ones that are always dependable. So, and then the last variety here is the Better Boys. And these, as you can see, are not completely covered up. And they got whacked by the, so there's, and one of them got destroyed. But this plant here has, you know, a fairly good number of tomatoes on it. And this one here had, but a lot of them got knocked off by the tornado, and some of the tomatoes got damaged by hail. Yeah, they definitely got damaged by hail. You can see the pock marks in them. And then the one that was on the end here is gone because the hailstone came down and severed the base of it. That's another look at Big Beef hybrid, and you know, that's got a fair amount. I like the trimming them. This is the first time I've done the thing where I trim the tomatoes or trim the sucker branches off of them, and I like the results of that. There's a tomato right there that got damaged by hail, rotting on the ground. I guess I should pick that up. And then this is a Big Beef, and this one here had a bunch of tomatoes fall on the ground, so it's coming back though, and it's putting some more tomatoes on it, as you can see. This is a Black Krim, and this plant's doing good. Black Krims are good. They make beautiful tomatoes, and they're also pretty productive. So yeah, those are some nice patty stripe beefsteaks there. Big cluster of tomatoes there and there. And the one on the end here, there was 3 beautiful tomatoes on that little branch right there, and you can see that branch got ripped off, and so those tomatoes are in the green tomato pile for making green tomato salsa.
Some nice clusters of tomatoes. There's like 6 tomatoes in that cluster down there.
And then it's starting to make some new ones. So this plant here is doing pretty well. Of all of them, I'd say, the most impressive is these mortgage lifters. I mean, this is kind of a famous old variety. Supposedly they call them mortgage lifters because the guy who developed this variety sold so many tomatoes that he was able to pay off his mortgage with them, which, that's probably not true, but back in those days, mortgages probably weren't near as expensive as they are nowadays. So there you go. We had a tornado come through here. It didn't destroy my shade cloth, and my shade cloth protected these tomatoes from being destroyed, because there wouldn't be any tomatoes here if it wasn't for the shade cloth, I don't think. So that's kind of a wrap up of the garden. One other thing I do want to mention is I was doing some videos about melons earlier in the year and was struggling to get the watermelons going. So I think the last video I did, there was a deer that came through here and chomped on some of these. So these were not protected by any shade cloth or anything, and they got hit by hail. There's 4 watermelon plants here, and there's some flowers down in there, some watermelon flowers that blossom. So fingers crossed we end up getting some watermelons out of these. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't, but there's nothing else to plant there anyway, so if they don't work out, then well, I don't know. Nothing you can do about it. Just whatever happens, happens. So that's kind of round out of what's going on in the garden. We had some problems. I always have problems getting peppers to set fruit. I don't know what it is, something to do with the culture or the weather here, that peppers just don't like. Certain peppers do, like the pepperoncinis do and the serranos do. I've had good luck with those in the past, but even jalapenos I've had a hard time growing in the past, and definitely bell peppers and the Anaheims and the hatch chilies have been a difficult pepper to grow here. So it just might not be the right environment for that. So on the bright side, the eggplants do great here. They love hot weather, and so do sweet potatoes. So we'll keep them going. So I made 2 jars of, actually 2.5 jars. I already ate half a jar of it, of green salsa with those green tomatoes that fell off because of the tornado. And I used some of my serrano peppers and some store-bought jalapenos and some of my onions and some store-bought onions to do that. And then these are some of the things that we've been harvesting. Some not so great looking tomatoes, but you can see the pock marks from those getting hail damage. So when a tomato gets damaged, it ripens. So they tend to ripen up. But anyway, there's 3 eggplants there, and there's some cucumbers I just picked today. So one of those was hiding. The one that on the right that's so big was hiding, and I had to climb the neighbor's fence and get over there to pick it. So that tree that was down on those cucumbers is inhibiting my cucumber plants. So I got over there with a set of loppers and chopped all the stuff up and threw my cucumber plants back over the fence. So hopefully they'll keep making cucumbers, because we're got 5 jars of pickles now, and those are 2 that are still fermenting on the counter, and there's 3 jars in the fridge. So I already showed pictures of those. So there you go. We're getting some produce out of the garden, and we're gonna make some eggplant lasagna with those Casper eggplants pretty soon. I almost forgot my multicolored carrots. That's about the end of those. There's a few more out there, but they're not gonna be, they're done. And I made a jar of pickled beets with my tornado beets and one of my red Well, my only red onion. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like, subscribe, and share the video with somebody else that you know that likes gardening or getting reports on tornado damage, which hope I don't do any more of those videos. Take care. God bless.